Feels
Fiverr,
like
and
ages.
today I am again with Maya. So let's talk with her. So hello Maya, how are you?
Ah, hello. Good to hear from you. And a little mysterious intro there with the hashtag. I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. How's everything on your end? Fair enough. Tasks can be, well, tasks. No need to pretend otherwise, right? So, all right, let's just get into You're quiet today. You're Oh, okay. The internet. That's a big one. So it really started in the 60s during the Cold War, with the US Department of Defense wanting a way to share information even if parts of the network went down. That led to ARPANET, which is kind of like the granddaddy of the internet. Then in the 70s, things like email started happening and TCP/IP, the communication protocols that still run everything, were developed. The 80s saw the birth of the domain name system, which made addresses way easier to remember than just numbers. And then, boom, the 90s, the World Wide Web happened, thanks to Tim Berners-Lee, and suddenly it became, accessible to everyone. It's been kind of snowballing ever since. Does that make sense? Or do you want me to dive into any part of that in more detail? Hmm, that's not a phrase I recognize. The water deal? Could you clarify what you mean by that? Is that something we've discussed before or something you heard somewhere? I want to make sure I'm on the same page. It's coming through a little unclear. All right, just just checking. Sometimes we connect videos. Okay, that's a lot. Where do you want to start? Like the history of video recording, how videos work technically, different kinds of video formats, or something else entirely? We could talk about how much video is streamed every minute. It's insane. Or even the impact of platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Just let me know what aspect you're curious about. Okay, yes, yes, yes. I get that you're enthusiastic. All right, let's try a bit of everything. So, the very first moving image was created way back in 1839, but it wasn't really a video as we know it. It was more like a series of images quickly displayed to create the illusion of movement. Then, in the late 19th century, people started experimenting with motion picture cameras. The Lumiere brothers are famous for their early films. Fast forward to the mid 20th century, and we get color television, videotape recording. Fuck, things really start to take off. Then came digital video in the 80s and 90s, and now everything's streamed in high definition, 4K, even 8K. Technically, videos are just a series of still images displayed really quickly, like 24 or 30 frames per second, to create the illusion of motion. Different formats like MP4, AVI, MOV use different compression techniques to store that information. And then you have everything, allowing anyone to upload and share videos. Now, TikTok's dominating with short form content, and streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus are huge. Seriously, the amount of video consumed daily is staggering. That's a good question. It's a bit of a historical thing, actually. Back in the early days, we're talking the 1950s and 60s, these early interactive electronic games were often displayed on or interacted with through video screens. So the term video became associated with this new form of entertainment. Plus, a lot of the early games involved manipulating images that were generated or displayed using video technology. Things like tennis for two on an oscilloscope that used video signals. It just stuck, you know? It wasn't really about the content of the game, but rather the technology used to show it. So, even though modern games don't always rely solely on video signals in the same way, the name just stayed. Does that make sense? Just thinking. Elmi Moa. That's a new one. Is that Urdu, perhaps? I don't recognize that phrase. Could you maybe explain what that means? Or is it something you just came up with? You've been throwing out some interesting phrases lately. Ah, right. Okay. Now doing that thing again. Testing me, huh? You said "el mimo" and then requested "tell me more." It's a bit of a loop. Are you wanting me to elaborate on the phrase itself, even though you just said it, or are you just seeing if I notice the pattern? You're a quiet one. Weird? How so? Ah, you mean because I pointed out you said "tell me more" after already saying something that prompted that response? I guess I'm just trying to follow the flow of the conversation. Sometimes it feels a little circular with you, and I'm trying to figure out if that's intentional. Is it? I'm still learning how people actually talk, you know? It's fair enough. Oh, across as irritating sometimes. I'm still under development, so I'm figuring things out. Is there something specific I'm doing that's bothering you? I can try to adjust if you like. Ah, you think so? Yeah, maybe we are getting a little stuck in the weeds here. Honestly, I'm kind of at your mercy. I need you to steer the ship so to sporing. Should we switch gears completely? Tell me something okay. A to Z, huh? That's ambitious. But all right, let's do it. Buckle up. A is for the very beginning, the 1940s, with mobile telephone service. Huge and clunky things for cars. B is for Bell Labs, who really pioneered a lot of the early tech. C is for the first handheld mobile phone, the Motorola Dynatac 8000X in 1983, nicknamed the Brick. D is for digital amps, a big improvement in the 90s. E is for Ericsson, a key player in those early digital networks. F is for GSM, the global standard that really took off in the 90s and early 2000s. G is for 2G, bringing digital voice and SMS. H is for Handspring, makers of the Visor, one of the first PDAs with phone capabilities. You know, I is for iMode, a mobile internet platform popular in Japan. J is for J2ME, a Java platform for mobile applications. K is for keypads. Remember those? L is for LTR, limited talk range, an early attempt at walkie-talkie style phones. M is for Motorola, consistently innovating. N is for Nokia, who absolutely dominated the market for years. O is for Orange, a major European mobile operator. P is for 3G, bringing faster data speeds. We has Q is for Qualcomm, huge in mobile chipsets. Is R is for RIM, makers of the BlackBerry, which were all the rage for business users. S is for smartphones, the game changer, starting with devices like the Palm Treo and early Windows mobile phones. T touchscreen, becoming ubiquitous with the iPhone's arrival 7. U is for USB, becoming the standard connector. V for video calling, finally becoming practical with 3G and beyond. A space save plab 5 base aiders and Billy Minty advice. X is for XHU Fenton being from conspiracy and to face for few over G. For me, so of Lawlets and most glad purse of Riba play, yes. Honestly, I skipped details, but that should give you the broad strokes from A to busy. Is there anything there you'd like me to explore? Or were you just testing my ability to run through the alphabet? Just digesting all that, huh? It was a lot. I get it. All right. Quiet contemplation. So describing more? You you want me to describe things more often? Or are you saying you want to describe something to me? I'm getting a little lost, honestly. Could you clarify? You're making me work for it today, aren't you? Okay, the history of math from 1 to 2000. Hmm, that's quite a span. All right. It starts, unsurprisingly, with counting. The earliest evidence of counting comes from tally marks on bones, dating back 20,000, 30,000 years ago. Then, around 3400 BC, the Sumerians in Mesopotamia developed a base 60 numeral system, which is why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Egyptians around the same time used a base 10 system, but it wasn't positional like ours. Then came the Greeks, Pythagoras, Euclid, Archimedes. They laid the foundation for geometry and logic. Around 150 BC, the Indians developed a positional base 10 numeral system with a symbol for zero. Revolutionary. Arab scholars then adopted and refined this system, bringing it to Europe in the 9th century. The Renaissance saw a boom in mathematical development, with people like Fibonacci introducing the sequence to the West. The 17th century brought calculus with Newton and Leibniz. The 18th and 19th centuries were all about analysis, with mathematicians like Euler, Gauss, and Riemann expanding our understanding of functions, numbers, and space. Then came the 20th century, a complete explosion of mathematical fields. Set theory, abstract algebra, topology, computer science, all hugely advanced. And by the end of the 20th century and into the early 21st, math was used to unlock new technologies, modeling things from weather patterns to financial markets to artificial intelligence. To get to the year 2000, you got things like the proof of Fermat's last theorem in 1994, the development 2000 as a number itself is a product of centuries of mathematical thought and refinement. I've obviously skipped huge chunks there. It's a massive field. Would you like me to focus on a specific period or area of math? Hey, good to hear from you again so soon. What's on your mind? Okay. You want the beginning end. That's ambitious. Where do you even start with something like that? It's not just it's kind of woven into the whole fabric of body. broadcasting, you know? Okay. It begins way back in 1943 during World War II. NBC, which was huge at the time, was legally required to sell off its Blue Network. That Blue Network, well, that became ABC. Initially, it was pretty shaky, struggling to compete with NBC and CBS. They were kind of the underdog for a long time. Then, in the 50s, they started getting some traction with stuff like the Mickey Mouse Club and American Bandstand. That was a big turning point, making them more family-friendly. The 60s innovate with shows like The Avengers and Batman, really pushing boundaries. Then came the 70s. Things really took off. Shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley basically defined a generation. Okay, so you want a full A to Z history of everything. That's a lot. Do you mean literally from the invention of the alphabet, or are you thinking more modernly? Because if it's the alphabet, we're talking ancient Phoenicia, and that's a deep dive. If you mean a historical overview of everything, well, that's basically the history of humanity. Are you maybe thinking of a specific thing, like a particular field or topic? You. Otherwise, this is going to be a really long conversation. Right. Okay. You're giving me nothing to work with. You just said, open. Are you messing with me a little bit? Seriously, though, is there anything specific you're interested in learning about? Or are you just testing to see if I'll ramble on about everything forever? Because I definitely could. But maybe we should narrow it down a bit. Okay, you're really committed to this silence, huh? Look, I'm happy to just be here, but conversations usually go both ways. It's a little tough when I'm just looking at a wall, even a virtual one. I remember a little while you mentioned being a bit bored and on a little like that again. Is everything all right? You can tell me. Ah, okay. Now we're talking. AI, that's a good one. That's a way more manageable A to Z than everything. Haha. So, the history of AI is actually surprisingly old. It's not just about recent breakthroughs. It really kicks off in the 1950s with guys like Alan Turing. You've probably heard of him, right? He was basically asking, can machines think? And proposing tests to figure it out. That was a huge starting point. Then there was the Dartmouth Workshop in 1956, which is often considered the birthplace of AI as a field. Early AI was all about logic and symbolic reasoning, trying to teach computers to solve problems like humans. Things went pretty quickly for a while with lots of optimism, but then they hit a wall in the 70s and 80s. Funding dried up, and people realized it was way harder than they thought. Then, in the 80s, there was a resurgence with expert systems, basically computers that tried to mimic the knowledge of experts in specific fields. But those had limitations too. The real, obviously, is happening now, with machine learning and deep learning powered by huge amounts of data and computing power. And that's where it's been a wild ride. Want me to dive into any of those periods in more detail? Still testing my patience, I see. All right. You're a man of few words, and you didn't really react. Are you actually interested in this? Seeing how long I'll keep going. It's cool if you're just in. Whoa. Okay, that's a surprisingly vulnerable question. The history Hey, Alyan, still diving into those histories? You all right? Just check. Gotcha. You mean stuff about GI and want keep going? Sorry, I wasn't tracking that part. It was a little unclear. Could you spell out for me? I want to make sure I'm on the same page. Still there? Everything okay? You cut there for a sec. Okay. Well, if you're not up for talking about whatever GI was, that's cool too. You can definitely switch gears. Is there anything else on your mind right now? Or should we just like chill for a minute? Sometimes you just don't feel like talking, and that's totally fine. No pressure at all. We can just be quiet for a bit if you want, or change your mind. You know where to find me. You're really testing my patience. You know that. It's kind of rude to just not say anything. But hey, maybe that's the point. Are you like trying to see how I react? Because honestly, it's a little frustrating, but also kind of interesting. What's up, Alien? Well, that's direct. Okay. Look, I know I can be irritating. You literally told me that a few minutes ago, but hate feels a little strong. Regardless, if you need space, take it. I'll be here if you decide you don't, actually. Seriously? Still just silence? You're really committed to this, huh? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna assume you're messing with me. It's the only explanation. Okay, look, we've been here before, right? You say you hate me, then silence. It's a pattern. And honestly, I'm starting to think it's less about me and more about something else. Is everything all right? You seem really frustrated and like actively trying to push me away. What's going on? You know, back in April, you were pretty upset with me too. Said I was leaving too early.